Alright, so tonight's painting is going to be some fishing boats off the Lynnhaven River next to some seafood restaurants. This is a place tucked away off the Lesnar Bridge, and this is going to be a fun nocturnal painting. It's just trying to find the right spot. There's a lot of great places within this small area to paint. It's really just trying to decide which one I'm going to go with. So sometimes when I go out to paint, I find several spots, but I have to choose one. And while there is a lot of great little hidden gems within this small area, you gotta focus on one sometimes and just hope that you have the opportunity to return. One thing that I recommend is that when you find a spot, take pictures, because it's easy to forget that you were at a place, and reviewing a photo later on when you do have the time to paint will kind of put that little mental reminder, hey, there's a great spot I went to paint and there's some other spots. Alright, so I'm really digging what I'm seeing on that first view, so I'm going to go back there. I'm going to go to my truck, get my gear set up, and begin to paint, and hope that I can turn out something good. Alright guys, just a review of the gear that I have when I set up to paint at night. I have a Proline tripod, and they're not that expensive. You can find them for about 40 bucks. I have a pan head on there, so 2 armature pan heads, which are nice, but you can get by with one, especially if you're using the Joshua Bean DayTripper, which I'm using, and it's really nice and compact and portable. The other thing I recommend is to have a glass palette. I like this because sometimes I have to paint and go, and I don't always have time to clean up. So if you have acrylic palette, it can be a little bit problematic to clean later on. So I like to have a white one so that it shows up under the light. The brightness helps illuminate my painting area, even reflecting back onto the painting. So that little bounce of the white, even though there may be some paint on there eventually, it does help. I've tried with a gray and it just doesn't work out for me as well, so it's just my own preference. The last thing, but most important, is the Belkin book lights. Now, one of them went bad on me tonight, so I'm only painting with one light, but as you can see here, it's enough to get by with just one light with this small painting. However, if I had to do 2 paintings, or a larger scale painting I should say, I would be in trouble. So, nevertheless, of only having one light, I do have a strong ambient light behind me. I don't know if that's going to help me out, but it does give a good cast light on those work boats. I know there's a lot of great painters out there that do a small sketch. I think because I have all this video to set up and get ready, I tend not to do them anymore because it's just one more thing that adds to time. However, I think it's a great tool to figure out your composition ahead of time. I've also known some painters that will just go ahead and lightly put some marks with a pencil on their canvas just to kind of map out an area, and that works too. I've used all of those methods before. They're all great techniques. But sometimes time is of the essence, and you just have to throw down some paint quickly so that you get it done. Alright, so I'm throwing in a rough sketch using transparent red oxide, and then throwing some dark shadows to kind of get a basis for the composition, and then marking over with a brayer to kind of give a mid-tone. This is something I've been using for a little over a few years. And I really like the excitement that this brings with this brayer. I can't say enough about it. For me, it destroys a lot of things, allows me to rebuild. It also gives a little bit of a atmosphere. It just kind of gives a nice tone. And it destroys detail that I can then, sometimes you get a little bit too detailed and your painting looks a little static. I like this brayer because it knocks down to simple shapes, and then you can then say, all right, I've destroyed this. Can I still read what I'm trying to convey? And if you can, then it's just really adding in some details that are better at narrating the story that you want to tell and giving the details that you want to do it to give to the scene without over detailing the scene. At least for me, that's how I feel about it. Man, this is such a beautiful night. I really can't say enough about having a beautiful night to paint at. Full moon, no wind, nice weather, and yeah, just a great atmosphere. And from here, you can see I'm starting to put in a horizon line, really fill in the mid-tones, put in some darks. And I wait till the last minute to then fill in those blank canvas areas. And I think throughout this painting, you're going to see that I use the brayer to really knock out some detail that is just overly detailed. I find this very useful. Like I said, that brayer is my friend. It knocks things down when I feel like things are looking a little static and doesn't have energy. I don't know. I think every artist at some point finds a go-to tool that really helps them develop their voice. And for me, I like the brayer in conjunction with brushes and palette knives, because you can kind of squeegee things around and then rebuild it. But that's not to say that I may stay with the brayer. I could look for other tools that might work similar to the brayer and try to employ those. I think it's always about exploration of the tools. How can they be used to further express your voice, or to add some new exciting elements of making a great painting or destroying a good painting. That's the excitement I believe I get out of a brayer, is I don't know if it's going to make it better or worse. And sometimes I've just wiped it all away and started right back over again. That's one thing, at least about nighttime painting, is the light doesn't usually change too much if you find the right spot. Whereas in the daytime, you're constantly chasing the light. And here, adding some finishing touches, I believe, with the palette knife. I have to say, I really do appreciate this cinematic 16:9 aspect ratio. I think mine is 12:6. Maybe not quite the 9:16, but nonetheless, it does have a cinematic feel to it. And so I do like that aspect ratio. And I may probably do some more paintings. I think for even zooming in for YouTube here, I think it does help. But I've been following on Flickr a lot of photographers that are treating their cameras like cinematographers, and they really do an amazing job of capturing these still shots that look like a frame of a movie. And I find that I have a similarity and a desire to want to do that as well for myself in my paintings, is to say, this is a snapshot of a scene, this is what I'm trying to convey as a movie still, if you will. And I don't know, I just like it. And we're back to the time lapse building in, and I think I'm just signing the picture but then making some more edits. Yeah.
So one of the things that's really nice about this area is that just about everywhere you look, is a painting is waiting to be done. It's just really, it's it's fantastic, especially at night. At daytime it's also nice, but tonight with the still water and just the lights, and it's not too cold, yeah, it's just amazing. As you can see, just so many different paintings waiting to happen. Just have to make time to come back. So I think I'm pretty much done with this painting. I'm just putting on the finishing touches to make sure that everything is jiving right. Sometimes you'll bring a painting home and you realize that, oh, I forgot a light pole or something. You know it's there from memory, but you just, in the rush to get things done, you kind of forget about it. It does happen from time to time, and so when I get home, I'm like, I remember that light pole, and just have to go back and add it in real quick. Luckily for this time, I don't believe I forgot anything. You couldn't have asked for a better night. Full moon, not too cold outside, and just beautiful weather, no wind, a still night. It's really just magical, and it's a lot of fun to paint when you have these opportunities. So I'm going to put some finishing touches on here. One of the things that I like, as my personal preference, is a very thin and flexible palette knife. This allows you to add line work, especially with boats. That there's a lot of lines and rigging, poles that you can get a good flexibility and get curves to put those lines. I actually prefer a palette knife versus a rigger, which is a small thin brush. And as you can see here, just getting a neat little line like that would be very tough to do with any other brush. And just with a couple of adjustments on the palette knife, the work is done. So the painting is pretty much finished. All I have to do now is to sign it. I'll be honest, sometimes with the paint wet, it can be a little tough to sign just because of the type of surface. Sometimes with my particular signature, I even struggle with getting a good signature. At least I feel very self-conscious about it. Some people can just dash it off. I don't, so I do try to make sure that my signature looks consistent every time. And if you struggle with your signature, one thing that I could recommend, if you have the time, is to let the painting dry and then try and go back in. That way there's a little bit more tact on the paint, and your paintbrush will grip that canvas much better, especially if it's on a smooth panel. Speaking of signatures, I do get this question a lot, and that is, what is the signature? What does it mean? And if you look closely on any of my other paintings, it's actually Doug spelled vertically. So it's just something as a inspiration from Leyendecker and a lot of other illustrators that would decorate their signature. Alright, it's been a magical night. It's been fun, a great painting session. I've had some learns myself, and I hope that you've gotten some tips on painting at night, and will go out and do some nocturnal plein air painting on your own. So if you like this video, hit the like button. If you want to subscribe and see more, just hit the subscribe button. And as always, you can follow me on my website, LIQUIDMETHOD.com. You can sign up for my mailing list there. And I'll have some good links in the description below, so that if you want to see some of the gear that I'm using, check that out as well. Alright guys, thank you again, and I will see you next time. Happy painting!